When I was in fourth grade, my teacher, Mr. Pendleton, gave us an assignment. He told us that we were supposed to write a Halloween story as it was Halloween time. Now, I was in fourth grade, during that time, I really didn't know what I was doing. So when he told me this, and when he told the class that we had this assignment, I was at a loss. I didn't know what I was supposed to do. I didn't know what I was going to do. I sat there for a long time at my desk wondering, oh my gosh, what am I going to do about this? Thinking, I am so going to screw over this assignment. Until suddenly an idea came to me. For a long time, when I was young, I had had so many stories and ideas pop into my head, but I didn't really know what to do with them. I just sat there and thought, well, that's cool, I guess I'll just forget about it. And I had the idea to maybe take what I had put inside my head and make it a story to tell other people. So I began writing furiously. I spent hours upon hours upon that assignment at home, both at school and at home. Finally, the day came where we were supposed to present our stories. So I went to the front of the class, nervously, and presented my story. As I told everyone my story, I felt excited about how everyone was reacting to my story, and how cool it was to see them all feeling good about hearing what I was telling them. And it felt good to know that I was entertaining people with something so simple that I had created. It felt amazing to hear that people were laughing at my jokes or feeling a little bit emotional about what I had created. So all of a sudden, the idea of writing became such an enthusing idea to me. I wanted to do it more. I wanted to write so many more stories. Now, looking back, I realized that the story I wrote was crap, but it inspired me to do more. And so, over time, I began to write and write and write multiple different stories. Now, I wrote a couple different stories online, as I wanted to be able to find the places where I could share my ideas to multiple different people, as there aren't a lot of times where you can just share it in the classroom. My first two stories that I ever put forth were a story called A Grim Dimension and He's Not Like Us, which are, to this day, still some of my favorites, as they were my first stories, and they were such a blast to write. But I found that I was getting very, very annoyed with something common that was going on within writing online. I kept getting the same kinds of comments. Most of them were positive, as my stories were doing better than I was expecting, and of course there would be some hateful people, but none of them were criticizing me. None of them were giving me critiques or telling me what I could do better, and I was getting very, very annoyed with this, as I cannot grow and couldn't grow unless I got critiques. And so I wanted to know, what am I doing right? What am I doing wrong? And no one was telling me. It was driving me insane, to the point that where I wanted to reach through the screen and grab the people reading my story and say, tell me what I'm doing wrong, please! Until I came up with an idea. What if I created a place where people could critique each other, and were encouraged to do so? I found that the main issue that a lot of people had is that most of these sites that I was writing on didn't really encourage people leaving reviews, as the author would often respond negatively to those reviews or call them out or have the opportunity to do X and Y. So I wanted to create a place where people could safely review each other, and also those who were being reviewed could feel safe about the fact that they were receiving reviews and wouldn't be scared to say something or receive those things without having to worry about receiving hateful comments or people being jerks. So for my Grizzly Pride project, I started working with tons of different people to start creating Writer's Haven. It's a simple idea that isn't complete yet, but the main principle is that it would be a place where people could submit creative works and be able to put forth their ideas without being afraid of being hated, and to be able to receive criticism to both better themselves and the people reading their stories. Now, as I went on, I realized I needed to write better stuff. Not just that I needed to write better stuff, but I needed to understand how to write proper dialogue and how to interact with people and make my stories more believable. And so, for my writing adventure, more than just doing the work, besides working with my colleagues as I did volunteer service up at This Is the Place Heritage Park, I paid attention to the people. I took notes on how they acted, how they interacted with each other, how they talked, their mannerisms, all that, and I made sure to pay attention so that I could create a better story for the people around me. Now, once I finished this, I began to refocus on writing games and writing stories. As a lot of the reason that I got into writing stories is I wanted to write something for video games. That was a common passion of mine as well. I played a lot of video games, and it was such a huge thing to me to be able to write a story that was so meaningful and would be played by people for hours. But as I did so, I finally found a different goal. As I grew older, I found that I was myself was wearing a mask to hide my own insecurities that I was constantly dealing with. The mask of gaming, the mask of writing, the mask of feeling good about myself, the mask of not being afraid, the mask of being the best person I wanted to be, when in reality I was nowhere near close to that desire. And so, after a while, I finally took off my own mask and left it behind. I dropped it and left it on the ground, not wanting to return to it and to better myself, as well as I wanted to help other people better themselves too. I wanted to take off their own masks and use my writing as a way to make them feel better. Because as I went on, I noticed that my writing made me feel better. It made me feel better about who I was, what I was doing, and how I was growing as a person. And so I wanted to make them feel good about what they could do and what my writing would do for them. I wanted the people to realize that even though the world may seem bleak and that there may be problems going on in their lives, that they could exit it and leave it behind them for just maybe a little while if they would just dive into the stories that I could create to make them feel happy as they enter somewhere else besides their own problems and delve into the world of imagination and feel something different. Feel emotions that they may not feel regularly during their normal lives. To make them feel happy, to make them feel sad, to make them feel emotionally bonded with people, to make them relate to other people, even if they were fictional for just a short period of time. I wanted them to make them feel happy and take off their mask and drop it on the side of the road. And I finally saw the fruitions of my dream come to reality, and it just made me want to do it more. Just a little while ago, I was checking reviews on my story, He's Not Like Us, and one of my reviewers and constant readers in Tanamuli left a review that shocked me and made me feel proud of what I had done. She said, simply, I had saved her life, and that I had made her feel better in one of her darkest times. And that felt great, and it made me want to continue writing.